Alright, what's up, people? Welcome to Extermination Radio, the alternative Doom radio podcast. Why it's alternative, I'm not really sure. But it's the show where we talk about the 1993 video game Doom, and we talk about level design and whatever's going on in the Doom community and all kinds of stuff. And I'm a huge Doom fan, of course, and I'm your host, John Vail, and I go by 40 ounce on doomworld.com, and I'm here today with Hey Poor Player TV's Coleman.
Hey, hello everybody. Really excited to be here on the show.
Yeah, man, I'm glad. I'm happy to talk to you too. You're a really interesting guest because almost every time I've done this show, I've talked to people from Doomworld, and I don't know if you have an account on Doomworld. I'm not sure you do. But
I do not actually. I am I will go on there pretty frequently. Of course, especially for looking for mods and things to download, but I've never been a particularly active community member. I'm not really on the forums.
Yeah, so I found out about you on Doomworld, of course. Somebody linked to one of your Doom videos. Okay, so I understand that you're what exactly is Hey Poor Player TV? Is that like an organization that you're a part of?
Yeah, I'd love to talk about that real quick. So, Hey Poor Player TV, well, I should start with this. HeyPoorPlayer.com is a video game news review editorial website whose sort of tagline, our slogan, our mission statement, if you will, is gaming with that old school cool. And it has been going since, I believe, 2011 or so. Never really been huge, but, we're a passionate team of writers. And I was hired on just last year, almost exactly a year ago, actually, because it was September of 2016. And I was hired on specifically to sort of boost the YouTube channel, boost the video presence, because, of course, for so many gamers and people who are interested in gaming, videos are where they're going more than written content. I do review games as well and do written work. But my primary job, it was to get the YouTube channel off the ground. And so the very first video I made for Hey Poor Player TV was because my hiring happened to coincide with the release of the Doom 2016 soundtrack by Mick Gordon. And this was something that I was really excited about, but a lot of people didn't actually know about it, and a lot of people weren't talking about it. And Bethesda and id Software's Twitter accounts weren't talking about it at all. It's like they were pretending it didn't exist, and I thought that was a bit of a tragedy of sorts because I think that music is a big part of what made the game. And so I wrote and made in one day, which was crazy. I got it up at 11:30 at night or something, so it was just barely the same day when it was relevant. I wrote a video that was called how Doom's soundtrack made the game great. And it was talking specifically about not just why the soundtrack is good music, but more about how it fits with the gameplay so well and enhances the gameplay in a way that a lot of music doesn't necessarily do, and why that's something worth celebrating.
Yeah.
And so this was my first video ever for a channel that had 60 subscribers and barely anything. And somebody posted it on Reddit, and the next thing I know, I tune in a few days later, and it's got 25,000 views.
Nice,
already. Man. And so since then, I have been doing a lot of things for the channel, but because so many people subscribed because of that Doom video and a couple follow-ups I did to that video, there is a lot of Doom content on our channel because that's what a lot of people are interested in. And the video you are referring to is one of the series that I do every Friday is called Second Opinion. Yes. And that's when we take a game that everyone already has an opinion on, and we sort of try to play devil's advocate. We try to look at what might the other side of this be. And so, one of the ones we did was Five Nights at Freddy's. A lot of people see it as, YouTube bait or just this ripoff or the series that isn't doing anything. And I argued, no, actually it is doing some things. This week's video is going to be about Skyrim. Does it really hold up? It's not just about, being contrary or clickbait. It's about, I think it's a really interesting critical exercise to look at something you have an established opinion on and say, okay, well, what is the other side of this, even if you still mostly agree with the opinion. And so I decided to do a video about one of my favorite video games of all time, the original Doom. And I argued that the original Doom is possibly the worst game in the series and may not have held up as well as everyone says.
Oh, no.
I criticized something that I loved.
Yes.
That means I don't love it.
Yeah,
obviously.
Well, okay, so, yeah, a guy brought it up. A guy by the name Cyanosis made a topic on Doom World, and he pointed it out. And everybody who saw it, they pointed it out, and they were like, oh, look at this YouTube troll, this clickbait faggot, fucking up everything, and talking shit on our favorite game. What an asshole. Like, and, yeah, that's unfortunately, that's what happened. And here's the thing. I saw the video, and I was looking forward to getting angry. because you are tampering with you're tampering with my baby. Doom is my game. Honestly, I don't play many other video games. Doom is pretty much my only thing, and I only play Doom 1 and 2. I've played the new Doom game, and I played Doom 3 before, but I always come back to Doom 1 and 2. Those are my games. And so I watched your video, and I made a couple points about... I jotted down some points that we're going to talk about later, but I jotted down, I kind of summarized the points that you made in the video. But I was actually really surprised. I expected to be angry, and I saw that you were very well informed the way you delivered your opinion. Because right from the beginning of the video, you admit that this is a review that you didn't want to do. And because you obviously have some enjoyment for this game. And so, yeah, I was expecting to be angry, but I can tell that you've done your research, and you've played this game before, and you're not doing what I think most people would do, where they actually just try to be a troll and make people upset. All right.
No, absolutely, that was not my intention.
Yeah.
And I do want to point out real quick, just as sort of a general rule of the internet, that video getting shared on Doom World, despite all the negative comments, helped it get about twice as many views. So if you really don't like something, you shouldn't share it. I still get paid whether you liked it or hated it if you click on it.
Yeah, bad publicity is good publicity, I guess.
Just amuses me.
Yeah, so your video is titled "The Flawed, Outdated, Not Very Original Doom," and I think that rubbed a lot of people the wrong way, because I think a lot of people do think it's very original, and it holds up very well today. So I think my notes are kind of shitty. Your first, okay, so I have 6 points here. The first point was about Doom's level design. A second point you made was about the lack of monster variation. A third point you made is there's a lack of ammo. The fourth point is that the Hell episode just sucks. The fifth point is people are wrong when they say Doom has better atmosphere. And the sixth that I found was that you said that Doom isn't very good for multiplayer. So the first one is Doom's level design. I think a lot of people would disagree with you on that, but let's hear you out. What are your comments on Doom's level design?
Sure. So Doom's level design, we're talking mostly when we talk about this, what I'm talking about is the original Doom versus Doom 2 Hell on Earth. And a lot of people don't like Doom 2's level design because they feel that it's gimmicky. And certainly, I don't think anyone can dispute that. It is gimmicky. When it works well, it's great. You have something like Dead Simple, which is such an iconic map that it gets replicated in pretty much every Doom game since. Or you have something like Tricks and Traps. And then, don't get me wrong, on the other end of the spectrum, you have shit like The Chasm, which is a pain in everybody's ass. And look, we're talking extremely generally here, right? Because that's what you have to do. Whereas Doom's level design, I think, is just not always that creative. I am going to do another quick plug here. I'm actually doing a playthrough of every single Doom game that is called I, Coleman, is Doom. That's on Hey Poor Player TV. New episodes go up every Thursday. And the reason I'm going to point that out is because while I'm playing through the game, I am trying to point these things out. I am trying to explain, like, look at this level. This is why I thought this wasn't super well designed, things like that. So if you want a more in-depth level-by-level analysis, you can look at that. But for the sake of this podcast...
How dare you plug How dare you plug your channel on my show? I'm just kidding.
I'm done, I promise. I gotta... That's like citation, supplementary materials. So especially in, I would say, the first episode, I will hold off on the third episode because you wanted me to talk about that specifically.
Yeah.
But looking at the first episode, a lot of it is the same. There's a lot of, obviously, just texture reusage, but not even things like that. So many of them start in the same basic room, this teeny tiny room. You open a door. It's a wide area with a bunch of monsters. You have to kill all of them. There's a door on the left. There's a door on the right. Often one of those two doors is locked with a key you have to go find. It is kind of samey. And in general, most of the levels are focused on... This is going to sound a little silly, but we're both Doom fans, so we can appreciate this. They're just focused on fighting monsters. And obviously that is all you do in Doom. That's all you do in any first-person shooter. But the point is that without that gimmickiness, I would argue that it starts to feel a little bit routine, right? Because all you're doing, and really all of these points tie in together, because with the lack of monster variety, you're fighting, the same few enemies in what feels like the same few rooms. It doesn't throw a lot of tricks and things at you, so it just starts to feel kind of repetitive. It's just these big open areas, and you just whittle down at the monsters with your not quite enough ammo. And I think it's hard to talk about these things as individual points, because I think it also kind of ties into the atmosphere. I'm going to go ahead and talk about that now, because that is a big part of level design, of course. Naturally, one of the most important things of level design is simply to further the gameplay. But I would really argue that neither of the first two Doom games, but maybe the first one especially, have a bit of an atmosphere problem, in that it doesn't really necessarily feel like you're in the areas you're supposed to be in. In some ways, Doom 2 does have this worse, right? Because it'll say something like factories, downtown, suburbs, all these things that are supposed to be real areas, and then they are completely designed like video game levels. They are designed, nothing like, for the most part, what these actual areas might look like. I mean, isn't it downtown? Is that... I can't remember the name, Map 15. I think it's downtown.
Industrial Zone. Industrial zone.
Industrial zone, yeah. The normal industrial zone of a city that has a giant lava pit.
Yeah.
And this, like, Gothic architecture and things. So it's, in general, the level design is very much focused just towards the combat. And while that's not necessarily a bad thing, I would actually argue that something like Heretic, perhaps, maybe does that a little better, in that Heretic feels like this cohesive world. And when you go into a level like Graveyard, one of my favorite Heretic levels, it is actually a graveyard.
Yeah. Okay, you made a lot of points. I know you said... And so when we were talking about level design, you said that, like, the first episode especially is very samey in a way. So a lot of people will say that... A lot of people say that the first episode is probably the best episode. I think a lot of people think... Well, I like the first episode a lot. It's one of my favorite episodes in Doom 1. I think it's probably one of the best looking episodes. Because most of the levels were designed by John Romero, and a lot of the episodes that... The following episodes, episode 2 and 3, are mostly designed by Sandy Peterson, who is... as far as aesthetics go, he's not the best mapper. But John Romero has a good way of like tying everything together and kind of creating this cohesive theme. But I do kind of see what you're saying in the sense that the levels do kind of all look the same. They use the same texture set. They all kind of blend into one another. And you're right, because like when you go into like something like E1M7 Computer Station, like 90% of the level is flooded with nukage. Why is there poison slime in this computer station and no computers?
Yeah, definitely.
So. Yeah, I guess I see what you're saying. And what were you saying? Doom 2 is like more gimmicky in that way, because it has like very individual type levels where they kind of have their own thing going on, whereas episode
Yeah.
1 doesn't really.
Here's the thing when we talk about gimmicky, and I'm sorry to interrupt real quick.
Okay.
Here's the thing when we talk about gimmicky. There is a central problem at the heart of every single first-person shooter, and first-person shooters have this problem more than any other genre of games, and that is having to deal with repetitiveness. Now, any game can get repetitive, but the thing is, a first-person shooter at the most basic level is basically WM1, right? You're just clicking the shoot button over and over again and moving around, and there's not a lot of other things to do.
Yeah.
So every single first-person shooter has to find some way to deal with this. And what is great about the Doom games, and Doom 1 as much as Doom 2, as much as anything else, that's the thing. We're comparing Doom games to Doom games, and that's really not fair. Even the original Doom, even Doom 3, which I know is probably the most hated by most of the community, comes out ahead of most other shooters. But the Doom games do this simply by having interesting, well-made combats. Other games like Half-Life do this by throwing you into a car or a boat or a terrible, terrible squad section every so often, something like that. So it's important to fight this fatigue. And what the gimmicks do for better and, again, the chasm for worse, is they force you to think of things in different ways. They force you to think of these fights in different ways. I will tell you, I think probably my favorite my favorite level of episode 1 is E1M9, the secret level, because you walk out and it's this narrow hallway and you feel like you know what's going to happen. You know there's going to be a smattering of zombies or imps or anything hanging around. And then, of course, you turn the corner, which, by the way, I love that you have to turn the corner before seeing this. And then you see the cage full of imps. And there's a pretty good chance, unless you're stockpiling ammo or you know, like us, have played the game a million times and actually know what's coming, you probably don't have enough ammo to deal with all of those imps right away. And so suddenly this thing that has been a minor enemy since the first level teaches you, okay, these guys take like a couple more hits than the zombies. Suddenly they're this major threat that you can't get rid of for quite a while because they're all standing there in the middle. The level in general, because everything about it is open, right? I mean, there's these closed doors you open with key cards, but then they open up back into the central area. So you have to keep coming to this area over and over again, and you're either killing everything you see, or, more likely, you are just increasingly filling this central area with monsters, and every time you run through it, you have to dodge imp fireballs and things. And I think that is a great example of Doom at its best, because it's taking these familiar elements, again, the imp, who you've seen since the beginning, and a fairly simple level design. It's basically a plus, right? It's basically this one room that opens into 4 other rooms. And yet it is making you deal with these things in a different way. It's making you think in a different way. Suddenly you're playing in a different way. Suddenly an imp isn't a minor annoyance you're going to blow away with the shotgun. Suddenly it's this... it's almost like that center area almost becomes, especially on the higher difficulties, like a boss battle. Like you are collecting ammo and armor and things to deal with all those imps in the middle.
Yeah. Well, Doom World is divided into like a bunch of different kind of camps. I was telling you earlier, there's the people that play with like GZ Doom, and then there's people who play with like the older, not the older, but like the more primitive, less advanced source ports, because they like the nostalgic way of playing Doom. And there's also different types of people. Like, there's a lot of level designers in Doom. I mean, as you know, there's a lot of like new maps that are being released almost every day. And there's some people who prefer like the classic style of gameplay, and then they also like what you described, where you're trying to use monsters in such a way where you're trying to make the player think differently, explore different concepts. Like it in general, when you're fighting, when we're talking about like Doom 1 and 2 here. When you're fighting different types of monsters, there's kind of like a hierarchy of like the type of monsters that you like. When you come into a room and there's a whole bunch of one type of monster and a whole bunch of another, you kill the one that's most dangerous first. You kind of like
yes.
And there's a big challenge that that some map designers like to look into is how to make less dangerous monsters more of a threat. So they kind of like confuse players into, because a lot of people will say, like, for example, the Archvile is probably like the most dangerous monster in Doom. You want to kill that one first. Some people will try to find ways to use an Archvile in conjunction with other monsters and make other monsters the more pressing threat. So you have to deal with the Archvile while fighting other monsters. And that's a way to kind of explore different gameplay concepts within the shooter.
Definitely.
And yeah, and I guess if we're talking about Doom 1 specifically, there aren't a whole lot of monsters that you do deal with. You got the 2 types of zombies, and then you have imps, and then you have panky demons. There's really not a whole lot of innovation that you can go with that, because they're all basically the same thing, and they all take 2 shotgun shells or less.
Yes. So
they all go down pretty quickly. So that in your second point, you did mention a lack of monster variation, and I guess that makes sense. And this is talking specifically about, well, we're comparing Doom and Doom 2 here.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So Doom 2 has the better monster variation. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, absolutely. So I will expand on this point a little bit for people who may not have seen the video, especially. I think that first-person shooters today, and this is, again, to my point of Doom is better than everything else, even today, or a lot of other things. I think a big problem first-person shooters have, especially as a reviewer who has to play a lot of crap first-person shooters, let me tell you, there is some garbage, and all of it ends up on my desk, is that a lot of them don't understand monster variety anymore. They think monster variety is having monsters that fill the same basic role that look different and often have like different health pools or something.
Right.
And I would argue to a certain extent Halo is to blame for that. I wouldn't say entirely, but that is one of the big gripes I have with the original Halo especially. But we don't need to get into that. True monster variety is what we were talking about before, of forcing you to think in different ways. And it's exactly what you're talking about this hierarchy. I think the Archvile is a great enemy because when it shows up on the field, suddenly the entire nature of the fight has changed.
Yes.
And I think that some maps use Archviles really, really well. I've actually been replaying Plutonia lately, which of course is the second of the final Doom episodes.
Yeah.
And I was playing those infamous secret levels recently that are so hard, and we always talk about how difficult Go to it is, and it is super difficult. There's no denying that. But I think that the way it uses Archviles especially is really well designed, because it's exactly what you were talking about, where you'll enter a room and there will be something like a spider mastermind and 4 cyber demons in the room, something ridiculous, and you're like, oh no, I have to focus on these things, and you'll be fighting them for a little while, and then the Archviles walk in. And now suddenly you're torn between, if I don't kill the cyber demon and the spider mastermind, they're going to murder me before I can get to the Archviles. But if I don't kill the Archviles, then what's the point of killing the others? They'll just resurrect them and I'll have to, do it again. And there goes all of my cells. But we're getting a little off track.
You're right. Because what you're saying is that Doom 2, it has the better monster variety, and that kind of brings it out. And when your review was about Doom 1. And you're right. Yes. Doom 1, we have, I think there's maybe like, I don't even know, like 7 or 8 monsters in the whole game. And and a majority of them,
so many of them fill the same basic purpose.
Exactly.
As you say, there are the 2 zombies whose only real difference is the damage they do and the health that they have.
Yeah, one hurts and the other hurts more, and that's basically the same, all they do.
You have the imp, which is, in some ways, it's not entirely like the zombies, because again, even the original Doom is a little smarter, but the biggest difference between them, of course, is that you can't really melee them because they will scratch you and won't flinch at all, whereas the zombies, of course, won't rapid fire. They'll shoot you, they'll wait, they'll shoot you again.
Yeah.
Imps will scratch you constantly, so you can't melee them, which does have a bit of a different dynamic. Also, you can dodge their projectiles, but in many ways, they fill the role of a slightly tougher zombie. And then, of course, you have Lost Souls and Demons, which are the same. They charge you, One of them charges you slightly faster, one of them charges you at a constant pace. But really, they both just exist to get up in your face and distract you from attacking the hit scanners and the imp. And then the Baron of Hell is truly just a much more buff imp.
Yes.
They also have the scratch. They also have the projectiles that can be dodged, and they're just, unfortunately, bullet spongy. And then, of course, you have the Cyber Demon and the Spider Mastermind, but ignoring secret levels, only one of each. And they're just boss battles. You're just fighting them one-on-one in an open room, which might be a little difficult the first time you play it, but, you go from Doom 2 to Doom 1, especially, and you're like, this, really? It's just one Cyber Demon in just one area. And the Sparta Mastermind fight, of course, I think most people would agree is a little disappointing, especially when you know it's coming, because if you save up all your BFG ammo, you will take her down very quickly.
Oh, yeah.
At least the Cyber Demon fight does, by not letting you have the BFG for it, does offer some more challenge there. But ignoring the boss monsters, is there anyone? Oh, the Cacodemons. The Cacodemons are really also just the Imp Baron, right?
Yeah,
Again,
they're medium imps.
They can be dodged. They bite you up. They're the medium rank of that. So there's really not things that force you to act in all these different situations. Doom 2 introduces the Chain Gunner, which we all hate the Chain Gunner.
Yeah, they're just death machines.
But we all hate the Chain Gunner, but Chain Gunner is important. Suddenly there's a zombie who can be, in most cases, the biggest threat in the room.
Yeah.
And Chain Gunners are really interesting because you can kill them pretty quickly if you focus on them, and if there's not a million high, TNT evolution. But they can be dealt with pretty quickly. But if you let them live to focus on something else, then they're gonna kill you really quickly, especially on higher difficulties. An unchecked Chain Gunner will just murder you. You have the Revenant, which, they fire at you. It doesn't matter how quickly you fire back. You can kill them entirely. You still have to dodge behind something or, dodge away from the curve.
Hook the missile around because it's homing. Yeah.
You have to move. And you have to move in a very specific way, which might not be the way you want to move, because ducking behind that pillar, I'm thinking of the Crusher right now, ducking behind that pillar might lead to a shotgunner, blowing your face off.
Yeah, right.
You have again the Archvile, which defines the flow of combat. By throwing the Cyber Demon and the Spider Mastermind into a fight, those change things up. Because the Cyber Demon, you could argue that it's an evolution of the Imp Cacodemon Baron line, but it is so much tougher, and that 3 rocket volley, that I don't think it's particularly controversial to say that it does make you play differently, because you can't just keep dodging projectiles and take it down. You need to certainly devote some attention to it, especially Doom 2 is less kind. It's less likely to give you nice open areas to fight the Cyber Demon. It will occasionally put it in, closed areas.
Yeah.
Spider Mastermind is just a Chain Gunner on steroids, and Jesus, fuck that thing. Except again, it's important. But the Hell Knight, I guess, just sort of fleshes out the ranks. But it's still nice to have that extra variety. It's nice to have the Baron of Hell that isn't just a bullet sponge, because then you can still have, the utility of the Baron of Hell attacking you. You can still have that be part of a fight without making it, there's a Baron, let me kill everything else and then take the hour and a half to whittle away at this thing's health. It makes it more immediate, more fast-paced, even just that, a palette swap. Yeah, it is a palette swap, but even... I'm not going to say that's the best Doom 2 monster design, because it's not,
right.
But, and the Pain Elemental, of course, which is, totally just out there. You have all these different things, and in the best levels, they really force you to think in these different ways. Again, you put an Archvile and a Chain Gunner in a room, even just those 2 monsters, now you have a really difficult new issue because,
Yeah.
again, you can kill the chain gunner really quickly, and if you don't, it's going to murder you. But then you also can't leave the arch vial unchecked because worst case scenario, it flame launches you into the air. Best case scenario, it's going to resurrect the chain gunner, and now you're still having to deal with that. So it forces your attention to go in two ways. You were talking about the hierarchy. Doom 2, in some ways, disrupts that hierarchy because now there's which of these two things do I deal with first? They're both really bad if left unchecked.
Yeah.
And unless they're, right next to each other and I've got rockets or a BFG or something, I have to pick one. More than Doom 1, which is, very much like, okay, I've entered a room, there's a demon, an imp, and a shotgunner. Well, I'm going to kill the shotgunner first because I don't need that hit scan in my life while dodging the imp. Then I'm going to kill the imp. Then I will probably punch or chainsaw, depending on what I have, the demon to death because why would you waste ammo on a demon if you don't have to?
Yeah.
Especially with, as I said, the maps being much more open. Largely, just these arenas. Even if it's a corridor, it's usually not as much a single file corridor. So you can probably afford to do that a good 80-90% of the time. You can afford to go in that order. If it's a Baron, then I'm probably going to kill the demon first. I might actually spend shotguns on it if I feel like I can't safely punch it. And then I will, as I say, pick away at the Baron of Hell for a really long time.
Yeah. Well, I can tell it's interesting considering that you're not part of the Doom community, that you really know your stuff. You know Doom pretty well. And that's pretty important because when I think of someone doing a negative Doom review, I expect them to just be like, oh, it's just some controversy bait about some like an extremely violent game, and they're just trying to be reckless and stupid, and you're some big macho guy, and it's just a bullshit retarded game.
It's old, and old games are bad.
Yeah, it's all pixelated and ugly. Exactly.
Graphics are ugly.
Yeah,
it's not real 3D.
Right. So like when you're discussing something about Doom not being that good, it's obviously you know your stuff because you've proved it already. You're explaining the monsters in pretty well in depth. So yeah, and like when we're talking about Doom 1, the issue is that all the monsters are basically the same. So you just kind of like, you don't really deal with them any differently. You just kind of let them walk into your field of fire and shoot them until they die. And that's basically the gist of Doom. The thing is though, is that it is just the first episode. And one of the things that I think is important about Doom is that the first episode especially is basically a training ground for what you're going to be doing for the rest of the game. You're going to be killing a lot of monsters, and you're going to have to deal with resource management, learning the different weapons, how much damage monsters take, and dealing with different kinds of traps and scenarios and stuff. And it is generally the same thing throughout, but it's a training for what's to come. And I don't think something like Doom 2 could exist without Doom 1, because Doom 1 was unprecedented at the time. It's a new game. It's a first person shooter. I mean, we had Wolfenstein 3D, but
sure,
only a handful of people play. I mean, well, more than a handful, but
Doom it was really pretty popular. But you're right, and this is something that I don't remember who brought up. Probably a few different commenters because that video was popular enough. But I do want to definitely address this because this is something I didn't talk about in the original video. And that was somewhat intentional because, again, Second Opinion for me is a critical exercise.
Yes.
More than, like, this is absolutely my 100% opinion. And so we usually look at things in an ahistorical context. But something that is absolutely very important to remember with Doom is that, as you say, there had been Wolfenstein 3D, and Wolfenstein 3D was a success, certainly. But for many people, Doom was their introduction to first-person shooting.
Yeah.
And it is really the game without which the genre would not exist. Without Doom, Wolfenstein 3D probably would have died as an interesting oddity. And so that is a very good point that, yes, I would say that the first episode of Doom is a little boring. It lacks a little bit of variety. But it is having to teach you skills that did not exist before Doom.
Yeah, because if we started
3D, you want to talk about lack of monster variety. Wolfenstein 3D literally has 3 monsters that are just slightly tougher versions of each other and dogs who go down one hit. So even in the little bit of variety Doom has, even in the you have to deal with imps differently than zombies, that's something that we take for granted now. At the time, this was an absolute revolution, and so it had to teach you that you should think about different monsters in different ways before it could come out with Doom 2, the ultimate realization of that idea. And that is absolutely a completely fair point that I did not initially address.
Yeah, because like in Doom 2, they introduced chain gunners in the third level, and I can imagine a lot of people playing a first-person shooter for the very first time would get to the third level and be like, man, fuck this game. Because you can see the chain gunner and they just tear you up in a few seconds.
These guys kill me from across the map and I can't even dodge it. For sure.
Yeah, so like one of the reasons that Doom 2 is so extreme and introduces all these like interesting monsters and the new bestiary and monsters that have different attacks that introduce different ways to play it is because people are so used to Doom 1 and because it's such an addictive game and people wanted something harder, and that was the whole point of Doom 2 was to make a harder Doom 1.
Mm-hmm.
So so yeah, like Doom 1 is that is like I think that's one thing that I think wasn't addressed in your video, but that's okay. I mean, you otherwise you made some other pretty good points. You did mention a lack of ammo in Doom 1, and I think a lot of people would argue with that because for most, well, I'm an experienced player and I played Doom 1 1,000 times. I rack up like 50 shells by the end of the like first or second level.
Oh yeah, and I do too, but I still stand by this point. And again, this is something that I talk about a little more in my current playthrough, although my current playthrough has some weird rules. I'm not playing it normally, so that's not really fair. But I will still absolutely stand by this point that I think, sure, for experienced players like you and me, I too rack up so many shells by the end. But I think a lot of the first Doom games' challenge is in deliberately withholding weapons and ammo from you. As we talked about, that Cyber Demon fight. Fighting a Cyber Demon, more or less alone, there's lost souls, but you're going to kill those guys first. Fighting a Cyber Demon alone in a big open area with lots of cover is not a hard fight. But because it doesn't let you have the BFG and forces you to fight with rockets, which of course have a slight damage reduction against the Cyber Demon because monsters aren't hurt by their own projectiles. In the Cyber Demon's case, it is hurt, but not as much. Now I'm just showing off how much trivia I know. But by withholding the BFG from you, that's what makes that fight hard. And I think that's true in a lot of the original Doom. The example I use the most, especially in that video, is
the first level of E3M1.
The Shores of Hell.
Yeah.
Yeah. The beginning of the Shores of Hell, where all you have is the pistol, and you have to fight. You kill a couple imps in the first room, and then you open the door, and then you have to fight that Cacodemon, or those Cacodemons, depending on the difficulty. And that, especially, is not hard. You can dodge. I can dodge Cacodemon projectiles all day, especially once you get down to one. But it's just sitting there and pistoling them over and over again, and that is not as fun as even... You can
dodge Cacodemon fireballs, but can you dodge them for a half hour?
Yes, exactly. And the answer is yes. Look, you know what? I'm going to come out here and say, even the chasm, as frustrating as it is when you're walking along the chasm and a Cacodemon pops up and you're like, it's going to knock me off the stupid thing and there's not much I can do about it, at least you feel tense in that moment. At least you are feeling, oh no, what a dangerous thing has happened to me. As opposed to just, still doing this, still pistol.
Yeah, well, in the chasm, most of the challenge involved with that has more to do with the level design and not so much the monster itself, because you're walking on these thin catwalks. You don't have a lot of space to move, so you can't dodge like you normally can, and that's the issue there.
Mm-hmm. And I'm not saying that's a well-designed level, because it's super not, but...
well, a lot of people like the chasm, too. Because, one of the reasons that people would say I like the chasm a lot, and one of the reasons that I like it is it's kind of, it's new. It's something that's unlike anything we've seen before, and there's a lot of, platforming elements in it that you don't really see in other Doom maps. Like, you have to run across these pillars, you have to walk on these narrow catwalks. It's really a challenge in it's a test of your ability to move,
definitely,
and precision in moving and things like that, which isn't really tested elsewhere. And when we talk about maps like Industrial Zone and the Courtyard, where you just have these flat planes that you can walk across.
Yeah, I will say this. What I really like about the chasm is what I was talking about, that feeling of fear that it instills, because at that point you are in hell.
Oh yeah.
And some of the Doom games across like all of the series and all the billions of mods do hell better than others, and even I would say some of the different levels in Doom 2 do hell better than others. And that one really does feel hellish. It's these. You think about hell, you think about all these flames on the ground. It's not flames, it's poison, but it's still the same idea of like one wrong step and I am going to die or more likely have to reload. But, it is that sense of fear. And again, talking about how the Cacodemon pops up and this is an enemy that's fairly easy, but now you have to kill it real quick. And as you say, have that precise movement. Can't just dodge to the side. You dodge to the side, you're in the soup.
Yeah.
But getting away from that and back to Doom 1. And the other thing is that I still stand by that because most of the people who disagreed with that point were experienced Doomers. The Doom World people didn't like that. And first, fair enough. We're all entitled to different opinions. First-time Doom players, because one of my greatest joys in life is introducing Doom to new people. And the first time I played Doom, I had this same experience. You run out of ammo. You really do. Because you don't know some of the tricks and things yet. You don't know. You're attacking demons with guns, which is pretty unnecessary, right? Because they're so easy to melee. You are attacking demons with guns. You are maybe not as good at dodging projectiles, or you think you can dodge the hit scanners. You don't know that the pistol does more damage up close and that you can kill a pistol zombie former human in one shot. And so you're sitting away shooting it. And again, so here's the thing. If we're going to make the argument that, well, Doom 1 is designed for new players, the ammo scarcity is a much, much bigger problem than it is for you and I. And so I know that's a controversial point. I know it will likely continue to be a controversial point, but I still think, and it may be anecdotal.
Fair. Yeah, right. It is a little bit. Well, what you're saying is that you introduce Doom to new people, and that's something. As people in the Doom World community, we're all people who have played Doom, and we talk to other people who play Doom. So we assume that everybody who plays Doom has the same experience. And through playing Doom so many times, we rack up ammo pretty quick. We know how much damage each monster takes. We almost never miss a shot, and we're able to plow through monsters. And like the zombie men and shotgun guys, they drop their ammo behind so you can pick it up. But you're right, because I had my wife play Doom for the first time a few years ago, and I do recall, like, by the time she was in like the second or third level, she used up all her ammo, because like I guess she was so focused on killing the monsters that she like forgot to pay attention that you can actually run out of ammo. And I saw her and I was watching her and I was like, why aren't you watching your ammo? I didn't tell her because I wanted to see her. I didn't want to compromise her experience, but I saw she had like maybe like 3 or 4 shotgun shells left, and she was shooting at guys really far away and just emptying her shotgun shells. And by the time she ran out of ammo, and then she walked into the next room and she was being chased by pinky demons and imps and stuff and nothing to kill them with. And the game automatically switched her to her fist. So she's like, what the hell am I going to do? Am I going to punch these guys? So she tried to, and then the pinky demons ate her to death.
Yes.
And that kind of fucked up her experience. So yeah, that is an interesting point, because we are kind of, people in Doom World, and myself especially, we have kind of a compromised experience because we know Doom so well that we can't really play it as a new player would. You know, they don't really know what to expect. So, that is an interesting point, because I wanted to argue that, because I think a lot of people do say that the first episode is just loaded with ammo, because we know what the secrets are too. That's another important thing too. So yeah, when you're a new player, you don't realize how many shots it takes to kill a monster. You're not really good at aiming yet, and stuff like that. So that's something you've had to deal with, I guess, if you're showing new people to play Doom. Is that kind of like where your point came from?
Yeah, that is more of where my point came from. And again, that's something that perhaps I didn't articulate as well. You know, oh no, I made one mistake.
No, it's okay. I mean, that's what you're here to do.
But no, I think that, and that's why I'm so glad that you had me on here to talk about it. But I think that, this might not be a universal truth, but I would still say that, one, for new players, the lack of ammo is a real problem, and it gets really frustrating. More so in Doom 1 than Doom 2. And the second point I would make is that I do believe that some of the encounters, I named a couple specific ones, are specifically based around you not having the right ammo, not having enough ammo, and or not having the right weapons.
Yeah.
I do think there is, at the very least, more of that in Doom 1 than in Doom 2, which is mostly the difficulty comes from level design, monsters, and generally just the challenge is the encounter, the fight itself. It's not about, do you have enough ammo for this fight? Because Doom 2, man, no matter what skill level, Doom 2 gorges you on ammo. And so it much more is not, do you have enough ammo for this fight? It's always like, can you deal with this particular fight that we've put you in? That is my point.
That's I don't know about Doom 2. I think it's kind of stingy with ammo, but that's my personal experience. And I do play Doom a certain way. There's something that we do called pistol starts. Like when you die, you lose all your weapons and all your ammunition. You start with the pistol. So what most people will do is they'll play Doom 2 with the pistol start. So you start with a pistol and 50 bullets, and you have to deal with what you got. And in a lot of cases, you're fighting monsters right away just with the pistol. But there is a shotgun somewhere on the map, but you have to know where it is, and you have to figure out how to bypass these monsters and get to the shotgun, and then deal with them. Mm-hmm. So like in when we're comparing Doom 1 to Doom 2, I know that in level 2 underhalls, there's like shotgun guys everywhere. Yes. And they all drop shotgun shells, so you pretty much load up on shotgun shells pretty quick. It also has the super shotgun. So if you're playing continuously from start to finish, like maybe like saving your games as you go along, that's probably where that stockpile of ammo comes from, right?
Right. Yes.
And then like once you've accumulated,
that is how I play. Is I am a filthy save scummer,
not
a pistol starter. So you're, you know what? You're absolutely right, and I hadn't thought of that. That if you are playing from a pistol start, yeah, definitely.
Right, because like if you watch the I don't know if you can watch it in GZ Doom, but I know in the older versions they have like demos that you can watch, and in the first demo, like the first level he plays is map 11 Circle of Death.
Yep.
And it's not really obvious, but if you watch the demo, there's like a shotgun that you have to. There's a stair set that's behind you, between these two pillars, and you wouldn't normally find it, but the guy who made the map, who recorded the demo, knew where it was, and he finds that first shotgun, and that's how he's able to like survive the first part. But if you tried to play that level without knowing where that secret is, that's really tough. There's like shotgun guys and chain gunners everywhere, and there's like pretty much no guns.
And on that particular map, so many of the chain gunners are on ledges that you're not gonna get to.
Yeah.
Yeah, so definitely you're dealing with. If you're just going straight through, and as you say, especially if you don't know where that shotgun is, now you have to fight an archvile with a pistol after fighting two arachnotrons with a pistol. So, no, you're right. If you play in that way, it's a very different experience.
Yeah. All right. So we were talking about the first level of the Hell episode earlier, and you made a pretty strong argument that the Hell episode sucks. I don't know if I can argue with you, because you made some pretty, especially when you mentioned the Slough of Despair map, where it's literally the shape of a hand. It's, as far as level design, that's a really ridiculous level. And it's kind of intimidating at first, because it seems like you're in kind of like this trench, but then you look at the auto map and it's just like, oh, it's just a hand with a bunch of squiggly lines all over it, and those are the walls. The Hell episode it's strange. It uses Hell themed textures, but that's really the what's holding it together. It's got like those red bricks, it's got blood on the walls and tortured people and fire and brimstone and all that kind of stuff. But the level design is kind of shaky. It's weird.
Yeah, definitely. I think that not necessarily every single level, but my personal favorite episode, you said the first one was yours, I believe. My personal favorite episode, and I think it's probably obvious, is the second one. I really enjoy it on multiple levels. I think it has really well-designed levels. I think it has... I'm trying to think. Yeah, it has all of the monsters that are in the game, so you get that monster variety. And I'll admit, personal preference, I really dig the aesthetic of half tech base, half hell, more than either the full tech base or the full hell. I really, really like just the style of the Shores of Doom maps. And I really love the containment area. Something about shooting imps in that maze of boxes just makes me happy. But talking about the third episode, again, it starts you off with that just terrible cacodemon fight, that just really not very fun. And then, as you say, you have Slough of Despair, or Slough of Despair, or Slough of
I'm not really sure how it's pronounced. I think it's
the thing is, it's pronounced differently in different regions, is the funny thing. So it may be pronounced very differently wherever you are, but we'll call it Slough of Despair. Yeah, as you say, it starts off seeming like this cool maze and has a great song, I must say. But then you look and you're like, oh, it's just a hand. It's not really a maze. I need to go to the 5 fingers, and then you do, and then you win. And the secret level being only reachable by rocket jump. Again, a lot of this stuff is going to be personal. The show's called Second Opinion. It is an opinion, but
yeah,
I think there's stuff like just the secret level only being accessible by rocket launcher is just annoying, and just unnecessary. And my personal least favorite ever of any Doom map in the classic Doom canon. So Doom 1, Doom 2, Final Doom. Probably my least favorite level is Unholy Cathedral. And maybe I'm just an idiot, but I get so confused by those goddamn teleporters every single time. I always end up wandering into the wrong ones and backtracking around. But even if you do it in the right order, there's going to be backtracking, which is not... I don't think it's necessarily the ultimate gaming sin that some people think it is, where, it's a common complaint about Doom mods that I think is not necessarily warranted, where it's like, oh, I had to backtrack for 2 seconds, whole mod is bad. That's a little silly. But especially, and again, if we're talking from a new player perspective, which I don't think is necessarily the best, certainly not the only way to analyze Doom, but especially new players, you are going to just end up backtracking a lot as you figure out which teleporter. It's like, try this one. Nope, that's not it. Try this one. Nope, that's not it, unless you get lucky.
It doesn't help that the map's perfectly symmetrical too.
Yeah. I think that what Inferno is to me, I think, is the id guys getting excited about some of their new toys, getting excited about, these teleporters, which have been in previous levels, we could have teleporter, we could have puzzles. I'm trying to remember, was Tom Hall actually on for any of Doom, or did he leave before development started? Because, of course, he famously wrote that Doom Bible that was completely different from how the game turned out.
Right. He designed some levels, and a lot of them got scrapped, but a lot of them were reused, and a lot of them were unfinished. Yeah. So they got reused by Sandy Peterson, and those would be maps like Episode 2, Map 7. That's a famous one. It's mostly Tom Hall.
Right, yeah.
There's a couple other maps, like in Doom 2, Map 10 Refueling Base is almost all Tom Hall's map. But it didn't have monsters in it. Sandy Peterson put all the monsters in it.
Yeah. Unholy Cathedral then is not a Tom Hall map, but it speaks of, especially, you go to Wolfenstein 3D, and a lot of the hallmarks of Tom Hall's maps are usually, he puts more effort into the aesthetics than anyone else. He would often do the first level and put effort into making it look like you were entering a castle or an underground laboratory or something like that. But then also, he really liked his mazes. He really liked forcing players to walk around a maze, and he really his favorite trick, and I actually own the Wolfenstein 3D hint manual where the guys from id talk about some of the level design decisions they made on the levels. I highly recommend any id fan pick that up if you can find a copy.
Oh, that's cool.
But he, by his own admission, his absolute favorite trick is that thing where you push a push wall for a secret, and then if you don't push the exact right wall, and there's no way you can know what the wall is unless you've trial and error. One of the walls gets you to the secret. One of them makes the secret completely unattainable. He loved these kinds of puzzles for the player, which
50-50
is something
shot.
I would say. Yeah, which is something that I would say is, again, kind of for better and for worse. Because some of his puzzle design maps are really good. Some of those Wolfenstein 3D mazes are fun. And so this is not actually a Tom Hall level, but it felt like his influence to me. It felt like that same, you just have to try and figure out which one it is, which is the last thing you want in a fast-paced action game, is to, be running around teleporters and trying to figure out which one it is. And again, especially the first time or times you play, if you don't have Doom Wiki open. By the way, doomwiki.org, not doomwiki at Wikia.
Good man.
But
good man. That's that's always been like a recurring problem at Doom World, is people linking to the Wikia.
Yes, sin. Don't do that. You unless you have the Doom Wiki open, you are going, or you're just insanely lucky on your first try ever. You are going to have to stop in your fast-paced action game to run through some teleporters for a bit. And again, I won't say every single Inferno level is bad. I believe, isn't it the one after that one that has the big lava pools and demons are chasing you around?
Yes, Mount Erebus, yeah.
Yeah. That one, I find that one extremely enjoyable because it is one of the ones that uses level design against you. Again, because you're like, oh, pinky demons, I will, bait them around and try to punch them, and oh no, I'm in the soup. Things, and just using so many of them that they are harder to deal with than usual, and because it's open areas, you can't choke point them, and just I think that particular level is great. And then also, as I said, just the final boss, right? This is the last moments of Doom, and what is it for 99% of people? You run forward in a straight line, turn right, see the spider demon, use your most powerful weapon against it. Oh, it's over already?
Yeah.
It's over?
2-3 shots and it's done.
Yeah.
And the map's over.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it is anticlimactic. I actually read about it. I think Sandy Peterson mentioned in an interview that that Spider Demon boss was supposed to be the end boss of episode 2. And somehow he accidentally swapped the two maps. And the Cyber Demon was supposed to end.
Me,
yeah, because the Cyber Demon's way more terrifying.
Yeah, it always felt to me like the natural progression of bosses should have been Baron's Spider Demon, Cyber Demon, definitely. Especially, just like you say, the scariness factor, like the stomping around. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
No, that makes a lot of sense.
He's a terrifying monster. And the map itself is terrifying because you start with those tortured Hell Barons in front of you, and it's like, holy shit, there's something big here.
That is such a great design.
Oh, yeah, I love that map.
About how much I love that, how much it's, hey, remember how much trouble you had with the last boss fight when you were playing it for the first time? Remember how scary it was when those two Bruiser brothers stepped out? Yeah, this is something that ate 4 of those guys for breakfast.
Oh, yeah.
That's what you're fighting. Oh, that's so good. And it, without communicating anything, right? That's one of the things I love so much about Doom, is that all of the storytelling is in the world. You don't need, Commander whoever popping up in your ear and being like, you're about to face something really big here.
Yes. Yeah, I know. That's what's so striking to me about Doom, is you kind of make up the story yourself based on what you see. There isn't a whole lot of, there's the story text interludes that come at the end of every episode, but they don't really tell you a whole lot. They just kind of give you like a little fake narrative of telling you like what you're thinking at this particular moment. And
they're more about getting you from place to place than telling you about who you are as a character.
Yeah, absolutely. That's all that character development stuff. That's all on you. That's the player. And that's what I like. That's what I find so fascinating about Doom, is because you can kind of, it's one of the things that triggers what makes Doom so interesting for me as far as like playing new levels. It just feels like the adventure just never ends. Yes. And without having to like artificially create a new story, every map is a new story because you're going into an unknown place, and you're going to, and there's monsters there, and you're going to have to kill them, and you're going to have to find the exit, and that's the story. And it's just all survival from there, and it's just I think that's one of the things that really made the Doom community blow up as far as like creating new levels and stuff, is that you're not kind of fixated on this. Like if you took something like Call of Duty, which has a very strict story and a very linear progression of storyline, even if you could design levels pretty easily, I mean, what could you make? You could make. I mean, there's only so many like war zones that happen in the world that you could model your maps after. But like, as far as Doom 1 and 2 goes, like TNT Evolution has a secret level where you go to Egypt. There's no reason why that should exist, but you can. And there's nothing in the Doom story that tells you that can't happen. But
and TNT Evolution also has one of my favorite maps ever, which is a warp gate.
Yeah.
Where you go through the level, and then it's optional. But if you're playing TNT Evolution, you're probably the sort of person who goes secret hunting, and then you go through a warp, and then it's the same level again, but it looks much older and it's much more difficult.
Yeah, it's like a Bizarro World version of the same map.
And as you say, it's the same thing where it's like there's no particular story reason for this, but man, when you do that and you realize what that is, and actually, to give episode 3 its credit, to give Inferno its credit, it has a similar thing. The secret level of Inferno, I think, is a great secret level because it's the first level again, and then suddenly Cyber Demon, and you have to go back, and it's not necessarily the most absolutely stunning idea of all time, but there's something really, really fun about that, really charming when you play that, and you don't know what's coming, and you're like, am I really just playing this first level again?
Yeah, it's cheeky in a way. You don't really see anything like that in modern games. I don't think it's like fair to do something like that, to kind of like fake something like that, like to make you think that you're playing the same level over again, like the game's broken or something, and you're playing the same level over and over again, and then it's just like a twisted version of the same thing.
And I do think that part of it is, as much as I love stories in games, as much as there have been some story-driven games I really love, and as much as I have talked about how atmosphere-wise sometimes Doom's level designs have nothing to do with what they are supposedly supposed to look like, but it does mean that you can have things like that. Because in modern games, you would have to have a reason for that. You'd have to have something like, we need you to travel into this warp gate. Or, there would have to be some reason for you to be going through it again. But it can be whatever you think the reason is. It can be simply, sort of a prank by the level designers. I always thought of it as sort of the hellish idea of like having to do the same thing over and over again forever. The Sisyphean task is sort of what I got from that. Like everyone's going to get something different from that experience.
Yeah. I had this interesting conversation with somebody one time, and they said something about Doom's abstractness is what makes it so flexible as far as the level design community goes. Like they being able to create new levels. It's just because Doom is so almost nonsensical in some ways, because we were talking about Doom 2 earlier and how Industrial Zone is just this huge place with a lava pit, and it doesn't look anything like a real industrial zone. That kind of gives a lot of people who are getting into level design for the first time an opportunity to make anything that they want, and it's okay if it doesn't look right because the base game does the same thing. So you don't have to make a very realistic thing for something to be something that you want it to be. And
definitely.
That makes it kind of open-ended. Like when as compared to something like, even other games at the time, like I had this argument, not an argument, but we were talking about, there was a topic on Doom World about Heretic and why people don't design as many levels for that. And you mentioned that Heretic has a much more cohesive theme, but in that, compared to something like Doom 1 and 2, which are a bit more abstract, because Heretic has such a cohesive theme, it kind of stifles creative innovation.
I think that's a really good point. When you make a Heretic map, you feel like you are somewhat confined by, I want to make a Heretic map.
It's got to be a castle or a dungeon or something medieval in order to fit the theme.
The best known Heretic map set, Curse of Desparo, right?
Yeah.
And what makes that map great is that it feels like a, depending on whether or not you have the expansion, 4th or 7th Heretic episode. It feels like the next logical step. It feels like you could slide it right into the game and nobody would know it was fan-made.
Yeah.
But and that's great that mod does that, but that is harder. Whereas with Doom, just thinking about some recent mods, everything from Ancient Aliens to Going Down, to, even something like Doom or Doom 2 the way it did, which tries to stay close to the original levels, but, and everything in between.
Yeah, it's exactly. Yeah, it's just that it has that kind of flexibility as far as like being able to do whatever you want within the engine. Mm-hmm. That's part of what makes it. It's funny that we were talking about this though, because you did mention in your Doom review that Doom 1 is lacking atmosphere. Do you know what exactly did you mean by that? What were you referring to when you were saying that? I don't really. I mean, that's all I wrote in my notes, so I can't remember exactly what you said in your video. But you said something about Doom 1 not having as strong as atmosphere, or that people who say that Doom has better atmosphere are wrong.
So the lacking atmosphere is interesting because it's something that I actually said was a problem with both Doom 1 and Doom 2.
Oh, okay.
And I think most people are right when they say it's a bigger problem with Doom 2, because Doom 2 technically has more of a story. Like, I guess it has some more text, but really it's just 32 levels stapled together they made the levels independently and then put them together with something like a theme. And as we both said, you get things like Courtyard, which almost doesn't feel hellish at all, to Industrial Zone, which feels like something that could be in hell, or at least like on the way to hell more than it is, and all these different weird things. Basically my point was just that they don't have nearly the cohesiveness of Heretic, at the same time, certainly of Strife a little bit later, of certainly modern games, and I think that Doom 3, for example, am I about to compliment Doom 3? Yes, I am.
Oh,
and I have a separate second opinion on Doom 3. It's called In Defense of Doom 3's Flashlight. So if you really want to get mad at me, oof. But no, like Doom 3, everything feels cohesive. You are, going through this story, through this world, and Doom 2016 as well establishes like this really great atmosphere through its music and through its general art design. Even the first Doom and Doom 2, but the first Doom as well, it is so much focused on gameplay. Really, it felt like more than atmosphere, more than storytelling, much to Tom Hall's eternal chagrin. You just have so many things that are like, that's just weird. Why is that like that? And to me, at least, it somewhat takes me out of the world.
Yeah.
But I kind of shot myself in the foot here because we just talked about we just talked about how great that abstraction is.
Well, no, because what you're saying is that it's when we talk about those points, abstraction is good for the level design community, and that's what makes the game so innovative and like it allows all these like gimmicky type maps to exist. Whereas for people who are interested in playing Doom for something like a storyline, they'd be much happier playing something like Doom 3 or Doom 2016 because that kind of has the storytelling elements. So like so it's good and bad because if we're talking about Doom and Doom 2 and not the other Doom mods that you can download, it's kind of lacking in that way. Mm-hmm. Okay, so that make like that. I feel like that's kind of the point you're trying to make, right?
Yeah, and yes, and I would also say again, we kind of come back to the first episode of Doom 1. For me, the first episode of Doom 1 has an atmosphere, but I find it kind of boring because it's like, all right, gray tech base. We've entered the hangar. What's next? All right, gray tech base. What's all right, gray tech base. I mean, we talk about modern games being gray and brown and not having a lot of color variation, and we forget that Quake, the first episode of Doom.
Yeah, how many colors are in Quake?
2, maybe. Man, Quake is a whole different beast. And this is why I think the second episode of the first Doom is so strong, because you're like, oh, great, it's more gray tech base. What the hell is this giant red cross? Yeah,
that's true. Doom, the second episode is pretty vibrant when it comes to colors. A lot of blue and red and other colors.
and again, the level that I love a lot, this E2 M2 containment facility, the cardboard boxes. It really, that level more than really, I think, any level in the first 2 Doom games. Am I prepared to say that? I think feels like a real physical space. That's what's so exciting to me. It really feels more like a warehouse, albeit a warehouse.
That was Tom Hall's map too. I forgot to mention that.
There we go.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he is the one who had the eye for those things. So like, it's the thing where there are definitely maps with great atmosphere, but in a very general sense, I don't think there's as many of those moments. I don't think there's as many moments where it feels like you're a part of the world. I think the fun of Doom, especially in its classic unmodded form, is much more about, like, you know, the strategy of shooting and the dance of movement and shooting and, you know, oh, how am I going to get through this fight? And I need to watch my ammo and health, and can I find a secret? Much more than, you know, actually feeling like you are part of a world.
Yeah. One of the most striking things to me about Containment Area is this actually wasn't Tom Hall's idea, because it was the map was inherited by Sandy Peterson. He put that there's a part in Containment Area where after you're like going through all the boxes and stuff, there's this like green marble temple area that's like dead in the middle of the map. And I think that was Sandy Peterson's influence, because he kind of wanted to make the map feel kind of twisted in that way, where it was like being subverted by Hell's influence. And that's that is, as far as like thematic elements go, you're right. Episode 2 is like the coolest, because it's got like that weird marriage of like these UAC military tech bases with Hell's influence. And that's a kind of style you don't really see, like, especially in Containment Area, where it's that like marble castle that's like ingrained inside the level. That's a very interesting thing, because like if we look at like Doom 3, for example, when he gets into like the twisted hell stuff, you really just start seeing like blood splatters on the wall, and they say suffer and die, and you have like these weird slimy tentacles and stuff everywhere. But you don't really have like a hell castle like engraving itself inside the level. Yeah,
it doesn't feel like, you know, the dimensions are falling into each other. It just feels like they're killing a bunch of people. That is an excellent point. Doom 1 episode 2. I mean, and again, what we were talking about before, how by the, you know, Doom E2M2 introduces that marble castle, that green marble castle, and then what is the last level of the game? Well, it's as close to hell as you've been up to this point. It is all the green marble castle. And another moment that I love is when there's that room. I'm afraid I can't remember exactly what map it's in. I want to say either M3 or M4 of E2, but when there's that hallway with the bright blue lights. And especially because the first episode is so kind of dull and dark and gray, you're like, oh, wow, bright lights. Hey, that's kind of a nice change. You know, they have emergency power, something, who knows? And so you naturally, just because it's the most colorful, prettiest part of an otherwise somewhat dull room, you step into the middle of the blue lights. And you get hurt. You take damage from that area. It's a secret. It doesn't look like nukage, but it hurts you.
Oh, yeah. I think that's part of Containment Area too.
Is it really?
Yeah, it's a huge level. It's hard to forget. It's hard to remember it all. But yeah, that is part of it. There's it's got those like blue lights, and I guess they're like electrical panels or something that you can shock yourself on.
But it's such that's just such an interesting moment. And again, it's the sort of thing where, as you say, it could be electrical panels, it could be Hell's influence. You don't necessarily know exactly what it is, but it's still a very memorable, literally just with blue lights and a damage, you know, modifier, they made a really memorable moment.
Yeah.
As far as atmosphere goes.
Yeah. Doom's a cool game, man.
Hey, you know what? Doom's a pretty good game.
Yeah. I think I've said that like 1,000 times on this podcast before, on all these episodes before.
Oh, but, on your Doom podcast? You like Doom? That's pretty risky, John.
Yeah, I know. I'm trolling.
It's a bold claim.
Yeah.
What's our next point?
The very last one you mentioned was Doom isn't good for multiplayer, and this is kind of interesting because Doom was huge for multiplayer. If you've read, I don't know if you've read this, but there's a book called Masters of Doom that I've.
Oh yes, I have a copy right next to my bed.
Oh, okay, good. You're a good guy, man. You know all this stuff. So yeah, there was like a chapter in that book where they were talking about like these huge these Doom like LAN events where people brought their own computers and signed up. And I've talked to some people here who are part of Doom World who have been to these events before, and Doom was pretty huge as far as multiplayer goes. And when we look, if you look into like the id Games archive where we store all the shared levels and stuff, there's a huge amount of deathmatch levels that were released in like the early like 1994 or 1995 years. So multiplayer was huge. But you have a point that Doom isn't very good for multiplayer. So yeah, let's get into that.
Yeah, so I'm going to say this is probably possibly the weakest, certainly the most ahistorical of my points. Having said that, I am going to barrel through.
Okay, go ahead.
Here's my argument with this. I forgot the exact example I was going. Oh, that's right, now I remember. Okay, so the thing is, having read Masters of Doom, you know as well as I do that the game was mostly done by the time they added multiplayer. It really was. They had almost finished it, and then John Carmack, who of course was the master programmer, comes to Romero and says, "Hey, I think I may have figured out how to do this, how to do online multiplayer." And John Romero's reaction was essentially, I'm paraphrasing here, although knowing John Romero, this may have been the actual quote, said something along the lines of, "You can do fucking what? We have to put this in the game." And they worked on it, and of course the first deathmatch ever was John Romero and Adrian Carmack, I believe, sitting in two separate rooms, realizing that they could shoot each other. And look, again, from a historical perspective, yes, Doom was huge in online multiplayer. It was one of the first games, not the first, but one of the first to really have these huge tournaments. And this was for a genre nobody had played before. People wanted to get so good at it that they wanted to do these deathmatch tournaments. John Romero himself became this master deathmatcher. And I would certainly argue that many online games today, everything from, your Counter-Strikes, which are sort of a direct line, being a first-person shooter, to some massively multiplayer online games like World of Warcraft, the fact that, online multiplayer is so big and it's so popular, and even things like League of Legends, currently the most popular PC game, owes itself to that excitement about multiplayer, that thrill that John Romero had, and his choice to go forward and putting into Doom of, wait a minute, you mean we can be in two separate rooms
playing the same game,
be shooting each other in the same virtual space? Yeah. So all that is amazing, but I think it really does feel like an afterthought. You talk about how there are so many deathmatch maps that were made. That is very true. You talk about how there is such a big deathmatch scene. That is also very true. And the multiplayer is still going even today, thanks in large part to things like Xandrinum, or Skulltag, may he rest in peace. Man, I love Skulltag. I was so sad. But none of the great deathmatch levels are in Doom 1, is really my only point that I have to make here.
That's a good point.
None of even the very good deathmatch levels are in Doom 1. You're not going to have the variety of weapons, and none of them were made with that in mind. I think definitely for a long time the most popular deathmatch level of classic Doom was Doom 2's Dead Simple, which we've talked about before. That is a great deathmatch map. It's simple, it's fun, you have a ton of weapons and pickups, and they even added that extra area with the BFG that is not accessible during single player unless you cheat. That extra spawn point with the BFG. And I think it's a fairly simple statement. Several of the levels in Doom 2 were designed with multiplayer in mind. Doom 1 was not designed with multiplayer in mind. And so it is not as good for that as Doom 2. Really, that's my only point there, is that it is not as good for multiplayer as Doom 2 was, as later map packs have been, as pretty much anything that came after it and built off of it did. Because, what? You're going to do a deathmatch on an unholy cathedral? I don't think so.
Yeah, well, you're absolutely right.
You're gonna do a deathmatch on something like E2 M1, E3 M1, really pretty much any of the M1s that are a straight line. That's not fun. You're just gonna run into each other, and whoever shoots first is gonna win. That's really my only point there, is simply that if you separate it from its historical context of being such a revolution in multiplayer, in 2017, when we're recording this, nobody other than maybe the purest of purists is going to want to play multiplayer with Doom 1 maps.
Yeah, you're right. Because what we're doing is we're looking at Doom through the lens that you're right. It's 2017 now, so we know what good multiplayer games are. And Doom, and even though you were right in saying that we have games like Counter-Strike and stuff, and that was all pretty much influenced by the fact that Doom multiplayer came out and that became so big at the time. So, but when we look at a game like Counter-Strike, you buy your guns, and almost all the guns, they have their strengths and weaknesses. You can buy the shotgun, which is awesome at close range and kills people right away, or you can get a sniper and shoot people from far away, or they all have their strengths and weaknesses, and kind of figuring it out. But when you have something like Doom has guns that they're monster killing machines. So and they kind of have you start with the pistol, which is useless against anything besides zombies, and it's even worse against players. And then it goes up the ladder. You get the shotgun, the chain gun, the rocket launcher, and each gun is a little bit better than the one before it, until you get to the BFG. And so as far as having a weapon balance or something, Doom 1 has none of that. I mean, you either have the best gun or you have the worst gun, and you start with the worst one, and that's kind of not conducive to Doom's fast-paced gameplay, because the player is super fast, and depending on where you start, you're probably not going to start near a good weapon, so you might get stuck with the shotgun while the other guy has the BFG, and so that's garbage multiplayer right there.
Yeah.
Right. So and especially if we're talking about Doom 1's levels, which are where all the deathmatch takes place. These are levels designed for killing monsters in, and kind of progressing the story along in. They're not really good deathmatch arenas. So when we're talking about Doom and how good it was for multiplayer, it was good at the time because it was new. It was the first time that someone you and your brother could play a video game together, and you could actually kill your brother in a virtual reality world.
Yeah.
And that was unlike anything anybody's ever played before. And that's what made it so explosive. And if we look at I don't know if you've played any of them, but there's a whole bunch of deathmatch levels that came out for Doom in the early 94, 95 years. And if you played any one of them at random, you could probably bet your whole life savings that you're going to play a shitty one. Because a lot of these maps are designed in such a way where the weapons are in secret areas and stuff, and the only way to know where the secret area is if you designed the level and you looked at it in an editor or something. And they were designed in this crazy way because people wanted to create arenas where they could win against their friends. So they designed a level where they knew where all the secrets are and stuff like that. And so they're not very good multiplayer levels, and neither are the ones in Doom 1. So, that is a good point. I mean, Doom multiplayer still lasts. I mean, people play. I mean, they don't play Skulltag anymore, but they play Xandronum. But that's the reason it has lasted is because we've been able to design more levels. Nobody's playing multiplayer on Doom 1. You're absolutely right about that. People are making capture the flag levels. They make team deathmatch levels and other kinds of game modes and stuff. And they want to design levels that are kind of conducive to the kind of gameplay that they want.
Yeah.
And Doom 1 doesn't really do that. It just kind of opened the door where multiplayer was a possibility. And when people got to see this, they got to see this potential, and that's how how multiplayer became a thing, and now it's super important in video gaming today. If you
Yes.
release a game and you don't have multiplayer, you can pretty much bet that people are going to stop playing it within a few hours.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. In some ways, multiplayer is overtaking single player. Again, League of Legends, Dota 2, most popular shooter of last year was Overwatch. No single player at all, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's an interesting trend, certainly.
Yeah. It is very interesting. But I do. I'm a player. I play Doom a lot, but I mostly play single player. But I enjoy that kind of single player experience. And I was really happy that the new Doom 2016 game, or Doom 4, whatever you want to call it, that had a very strong single player campaign. It was very exciting to play.
Yes.
But
man, that was such a relief because I remember very distinctly I had played the beta and the beta was all multiplayer and it was really not very good, and I had pre-ordered the collector's edition and I was man, it's not even gonna be good. I'm just playing it because I have fondness for the series, and then from that first moment when the first lines of the game, talking about they are rage, brutal, without mercy, but you will be worse. And I was like, they've nailed it. That is exactly what Doom is in one sentence.
Yeah.
And it will never displace the classic games in my mind. It will never. The lack of mod support means that we'll never have the infinite replayability of Doom 1 and Doom 2. But it was a good little game. It was a worthy successor, I felt.
Yeah. You said you play a lot of other shooters, and you said a lot of them are crap, right? What are if you don't mind me asking you, I don't play a lot of other video games, so it's interesting to hear from your perspective. What are some of the most common problems that run into a lot of first-person shooters that you play?
Sure. So one of the biggest problems, I would say, it comes with people trying to emulate classic first-person shooters. Again, Doom, Wolfenstein, Quake, what have you, without really understanding what made those games great. What makes Doom great, and as I think we've talked about over the last hour and a half, is design. That's simply it. Good, smart design principles. Good level design, good monster design, good weapon design, all of that. That's what makes it great. And so many people think that they can just throw a pixel art coat of paint on it, and suddenly it's a retro game. Never mind what the actual gameplay is like. I think we had a pretty kind of a stinker this year. I wouldn't say it was horrible. And it's funny because I actually did not review this one for the site, and we gave it a 7 out of 10, which is something that's nice about us, is that we have different opinions. But was Strafe. Strafe, of course, was a game that sold itself under the tagline, the best shooter of 1996. Its whole thing was, we're bringing retro shooters back, but other than a pixel art coat of paint, it was a roguelike game, and it comes back to what we were talking about earlier, just not understanding what monster variety actually means. Monster variety doesn't mean infinitely randomly generated. It means monsters that make you think in different ways, monsters that are well designed, and no randomly designed levels are ever going to stand up, in my opinion, to just really solidly designed single player experiences that are meant to be these great single player experiences. You can't just throw pixels, throw the Photoshop pixelate filter on everything and make it good. An even more egregious example of this from this year that I think is less high profile was Desync. Desync was made by Adult Swim Games, and I did review this one. And man, it did not get it. There's one enemy. They knew that speed was important, but it moves so fast that you are going to get motions. It moves too fast, right? It's one of those games where you stop pressing the movement button and you move forward a little bit because of momentum, and that is terrible. That is bad.
Well, Doom has that too.
It had that a little bit, but it's the preciseness of the movement you were talking about earlier that having preciseness is important.
Yeah.
Even if you have the momentum, you learn to control the momentum. The running to jump onto things because there was no jump. And the other thing Desync did was not only did it have pixel art graphics, but it decided it needed to go one level more retro and put scan lines over the entire game.
Oh, jeez. Why?
Do you know what happens when you take a game that is already moving motion sickness fast and put scan lines on top of it so that everything looks distorted?
Ooh.
It is nauseating. It is horrible. It's bad, and that is not. And again, just like so much, it's just like, yeah, we have just the same boring monsters. Truly, in Desync, the only difference between monsters are health pools. I think that monster variety is one of the biggest problems we have now. And even most first-person shooters, of course, now are war games. You're fighting humans. Even something like Wolfenstein: The New Order, which is trying to, I mean, it's explicitly an id property that they're trying to bring back. So much of that is just fighting humans, or when you fight robots, a lot of the times they just shoot at you like a human would and are much bigger and have much more health. And that is not, that's really what I think needs to come back, is understanding monster design that makes you think in different ways. You know, I want to know what the next Archvile is. I want to know what the next the big thing is. And so many of the games I play, they're like, we're bringing back classic 90s shooters, completely miss the point of what those games were about.
Yeah, I think you're right. I noticed that. I noticed that too. That is kind of like a selling point for these like types of games, is where they make things like really pixelated, so they look like Minecraft, and like they think that's like what's like what we need in our video games, and that's not entirely true. Because if you look at something like Serious Sam, that's still like pretty fun. That has like good, interesting monster design, but that's not all pixelated either. Serious Sam kind of like dropped the mark in a couple of games though. I did play one of them recently with some friends of mine. I only played a couple levels of it, but it was really weird. I forget exactly which one it is, so I'm
I suspect it's the. I would argue that all of the Serious Sam games have a point where they get boring, and for Serious Sam 3, that's shortly after you click new game.
Yeah, I think it was the third one, because it had a lot of like bloom, and a lot of cities were like in rubble and everything. Yeah, there was something about that was really weird. I remember we were playing co-op on it, and I remember by the time we got to the second level, I think it was like the third level, it was like the exact same level but in reverse. And I was like, whoa, come on, you can't just give me the same level again.
I will tell you, this is perhaps a little off topic, but definitely relevant to the question at hand, is the best classic shooter I've played this year is that came out this year, certainly, is Serious Sam's Bogus Detour. Which
I've heard good things about that.
It's the spin-off that's a top-down shooter. And it's a top-down shooter, right? You don't expect it to be anything like Doom or anything else, but it has really great weapon variety. It has really great level design with secrets that are like rewarding, and so it makes it fun to explore. It has those slightly non-linear levels where there's an objective to get to, but you can, get there a bunch of different ways and explore and do these optional things. And yeah, it just has all the variety. It has all of these things that we've been talking about there. So great in a top-down shooter, and that's my point. A shooter that I absolutely loved to death last year that I thought incorporated some retro design decisions very well is Devil Daggers. Have you heard of this game?
Yeah.
For those perhaps who haven't, Devil Daggers is a game where the average length of a run is 15 seconds. There's one map, there's one weapon with two different firing modes that are basically rapid fire and weak, so like chain gun, and then up close, big hit, like shotgun. And it takes place on one map. There's just a plain circle, and monsters spawn in the same order every time. And it's all about trying to beat your score and kill slightly more enemies and last slightly longer. And again, the world record is like 12 minutes is the longest anyone's ever played this game last time I checked. 15 seconds is the average time. I myself am quite proud of the fact that I've managed to get up to 5 minutes. And that and the Serious Sam top-down game, they don't look like Doom. They're totally different, but they understand what made those games great. They know how to make a good shooter. They know how to make it so that, again, we fight that repetitiveness, which is always going to be the biggest problem first-person shooters have, is how do you make the act of just clicking on a man until a man falls down over and over and over again for 40 hours? How do you make that different and fun?
Yeah. Well, when I think about what that is you were talking earlier about the Adult Swim game, which is like all pixelated scan lines and everything, and a part of the problem is going super fast, and I like one of these selling points that I see a lot when it comes to like people trying to bring back the classics is they talk about Quake, and Quake is like I think like when people think of Quake, they think about going fast and rocket jumping and jumping all over the place and bunny hopping and doing all kinds of crazy stuff and beating the game as fast as possible. But I don't think it's all about speed. What I think it is about control. Is you want your character to do what you want him to do, and when it comes to playing a game like Doom, control is extremely important, and it has a lot to do when you're dealing with a lot of monsters at once. Having the ability to know that you have to dodge fireballs and being able to do it without losing control of your guy, that's extremely important.
Definitely.
So like, what I don't know. There's something that's like kind of driving me crazy. It seems like a very basic type of thing that I don't understand why a lot of games are missing this mark. But that important thing about having control and just kind of creating a game where at its very basic level, before you apply graphics and all that stuff, creating a game where your character is easy to control and you're fighting things that are different. Like, I don't know. It's I was on a roll for a minute, but I kind of I
definitely agree with you. I think that a problem in games today, and this is not true of all games. I'm very much not one of those games used to be better. I mean, some games did, but like, I think there are great games coming out every single year. But I think that more of a problem with games today is that because the graphics have gotten so much better, because the technology has gotten so much better, because we are all excited about being able to do more things than ever before, a lot of the times we try to cover a game's flaws up with flashiness, with story, with pretty graphics. AAA game studios are spending more and more on graphics every single year on, having vehicle sections and, you can look at this scripted sequence and look at this cool finishing move you can pull off or what have you. When the reason that Doom and Doom 2 and their ilk will last forever is simply because they are extremely simple games. Anyone can understand them. You want to get to the end of this room. There are monsters in your way. You must clear the monsters to get to your objective. It's just great, really, really smart design. And that is the thing about so many games today is they start with like, all right, what's the premise? What's the story we're trying to tell? What's the hook? When great games are just well designed. That's all you need.
Yeah,
Doom
I feel like to make
anything other than shooting, it just made the shooting really, really good.
Yeah, I feel like in order to make a classic game good is to just kind of create like a little bit of a sandbox and give your character some abilities. Okay, I can jump, I can run, I can move at this certain speed, move at a speed that feels right, that lets me feel like I have full control of my player, and then introduce some enemies, so some shootable objects that just kind of like before you apply graphics or anything. So these things are maybe they're just like squares, they're just things that you can see. And okay, this guy throws a fireball at you. Okay, that's one monster. All right, let's add a new monster. So what are we gonna do? We're gonna add a monster that just has more health? No, we're gonna let's make a monster that throws 2 fireballs at once or something like that, and go crazy until you find a gameplay setup that is just fun to play on its own, that you can play for a few hours and still have fun and enjoy. And then once you have that, be able to develop the graphics and the storyline and everything you want from there. You have to get that core gameplay right. That's what makes Doom last, is because the game is it's just fun on its own level, that even if the graphics suck, you're still having fun with the game.
Yes. Yeah, and again, I think it's because like they couldn't rely on anything else. No one has ever played Doom for the story. I think that's something we can all agree on, is that the story of Doom is, it's kind of fun. It's kind of a fun premise. But I mean, come on, it's not winning a Pulitzer or anything. You're not gonna play for the graphics as much as Adrian Carmack's art still holds up. It's just fun. It's exactly. I mean, I'm just echoing what you said. You totally hit the nail on the head. Just make core gameplay that is strong. And I think it's because all they had to rely on back then was core gameplay. If you didn't enjoy shooting monsters, you weren't going to stick around. There was no other reason you would stick around. You wouldn't be like, well, I really want to see where the story goes. It's going to go to you fight bigger monsters until you fought all of them.
Yeah, when it comes to making like a classic game that just does it all right, it's just you got to focus on that, and do not even start working on the rest of the game until you get that right.
Mm-hmm. And shareware, man. The death of shareware.
Yeah, what's up with that?
The death of even demos in general means that I don't think this is a pretty indisputable fact. Shareware is why Doom got so big, because it was so strong. And when people played it, you describe it to someone and they're like, okay, that sounds really simple. But when you sit down and play it and you're like, yeah, it's free right now, you go, this is really truly something special.
Yeah.
Yeah,
shareware is I don't know why that's kind of gone, because it was pretty cool how they gave you like 1/3 of the game like before.
I think there's a few reasons for that. I think a big one is publisher fear. I mean, we talk about Bethesda, who made Doom 2016. Bethesda is now refusing to give review copies out before their games come out. They don't want people to review their games because, what if it's bad? What if they get negative reviews? You see a lot of this. There's fewer demos, fewer betas and things. And I think a lot of it is because whether it's true or not, I'm not going to say that, obviously there's some Bethesda games I really like. It's not like every single Bethesda game is crap. But I think that it speaks to a general lack of confidence of the id guys knew we published this episode. They were confident in their work. They were like, people will want to buy the rest.
Yeah.
Because what we have made is something that is really strong. And I think there's much less of that now. I think it's much more about, we want you to pre-order the game before we've even told you anything about it. We want you to pre-order DLC, for God's sake. We want you to buy these things. We want to have your money. Because once you've played the game, once reviews are out, who knows if you're going to pay the money? We want your money now, before nothing, on trust.
Yeah, to be fair though, these games have like huge budgets, and there's a lot of competition, and Doom didn't have the internet, like they didn't have Twitter and people freaking out whenever a new game came out. I mean, people did freak out, but I think maybe like only like a percentage of the world actually had an internet connection to find out about it or to talk about it. And now, I mean, social media and everything, word spreads around fast. So if you make a game that's even slightly shitty, people will talk about it, and it'll hurt your business. Yeah. And it also doesn't help that we've had so many games released over the years that the gaming community in general, just people who play video games, have become very jaded. They have their favorite games and things. And I'm certainly one of them. I play Doom pretty much exclusively. I have no reason to play other games because Doom, it just hits all the right marks for me.
Mm-hmm. And every time you get tired of it, you install a new mod and, oh, look, it's a different game.
Yeah, exactly. And so it's easy for people to get angry. And when people get angry, people listen to them, and that hurts business pretty badly. And I think that's probably why pre-ordering DLC, oh my God, that sounds awful. But that's one of the things that happens is they have to find a way to get people to pay for things before they can find out that it's shitty and spread that word. But I don't know. I don't think games have gotten worse though. I mean, I used to be really cynical a few years ago. Maybe like 5 or 10 years ago, I was really big into Doom, and around maybe like 5-10 years ago, very linear, modern military shooters were coming out, like Call of Duty and Medal of Honor and all that kind of stuff, and they were all. There was like a comparison picture. Someone picked like screenshots of like Killzone, Medal of Honor, and Call of Duty next to each other, and they all looked like exactly the same game. And I was so like, this is it. These games are done. Like they're not going to get better. Yeah,
definitely, here. Especially in the really in the 2000s and then the early 2010s. Yeah, it was all that gray and brown military shooter shit, and I am so glad that we're starting to get out of that. Again, I am not the biggest Overwatch fan. I personally don't enjoy it that much. But what I'm really excited about is that because it was such a big hit last year, now so many games are basing themselves off of Overwatch and its bright color palette, its goofy characters, and its emphasis on fun. And I think that is something that really, really needed to come back to the game industry.
Yes,
was
just bring back fun.
Yeah, forget realism, forget, being depressing, and we have to prove ourselves as an art form, so we all have to be really grim. And Gears of War, which is a goofy-ass shooter, has to be all about, oh, my wife died.
Yeah.
And instead just embracing the fun, just being like, yeah, Hell Beasts invade Mars. That's a ridiculous premise, but you know what? We're running with it.
Yeah, just be silly, man.
Yeah.
All right,
just embrace the fun.
Well, that's great. Is there anything else you want to talk about before we wrap this up? We've been talking for almost like 2 hours, but that's okay. I mean, we can keep talking. I feel like I could talk to you forever.
Thank you. No, I'm enjoying this. It is thrilling to talk to other people always who have such the same level of passion for something, and something so sort of insular as classic Doom. Let's talk about extremely specific points of levels. No, this has been a great time.
Yeah.
I think I've said what I want to say about like Doom 1 and 2's design. But I think that it might be a fun little sort of a nice way to wrap things up if I talk about how I got into Doom, why Doom is so important to me, and this will be fairly quick.
Absolutely.
But I think that, I don't know, I'm going to tell this story.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was an extremely scaredy cat child. When I was young, I was one of those kids who was, no matter what my parents did to try and get me out of it, I was terrified of everything. Like, I would cry at The Little Mermaid, of all things, like, scared me too much, like the big octopus at the end. Or I wasn't even allowed to watch Bugs Life for years because they were like, that bird is just going to make I cry. I was just this incredibly frightened child. And then, when I was 10 years old, it was actually Doom 2 that I started on. But I would later go back and play Doom 1 and, the whole series. But when I was 10 years old, I was finally allowed to play M-rated games, and I played Doom 2. And the Doom series is a horror series. So for somebody who was scared of Disney movies and practically his own shadow, playing a horror game seems like it would be horrible, right? Like, it seems like I was just gonna, have nightmares for the rest of my life. And instead, it felt like nothing that I had ever played before. And what was so transformative about it to me was that, yes, there were monsters. And yes, especially at first, the monsters really freaked me out. The screams, the groans, the grotesque twisted shapes, the sergeant whose mouth looks like he's been chewing on blood. It was quite scary, but I realized something, which is that the monsters might be real, but so am I, and I have a shotgun. I had never played anything. The fact that we talked about the abstraction, the strategy of it, the fact that it is from that first-person perspective, which we take for granted now, but that really puts you there. You are the one doing these things. It felt like I was destroying everything I was afraid of, right? These creepy, terrifying monsters. It's like I was fighting back. And after a while, you stop thinking of the imp as a monster. You really do. And you start thinking of it as, okay, one shotgun shot up close, however many pistol shots. Don't use the fist again. Like, you think of them as these statistics almost, these, how do I fight them? And that level of abstraction. And it really, truly did help me become a much less frightened person, a much more it was a really important part of my maturing, was this game that was a horror story where you are the monster. It's exactly those opening lines of Doom 4 and why they spoke to me so much. They are rage, brutal, without mercy, but you will be worse. And that, to me, is what Doom is about. That is why I will play it forever. That is why I own just about every piece of Doom memorabilia I could get my hands on, until my friends make fun of me for having what looks like a shrine to Doom in my room, is because they are rage, you will be worse. And it's that control that we were talking about. It's that power fantasy. It affected me in a way no other game ever has or ever will. And that is what, to me, is special about Doom.
That really speaks to me too, because my first experience playing Doom, I was very young. I think it was about shortly after my 4th birthday. And I played Doom for the first time. But I played with all the cheat codes and stuff. But yeah.
Sure.
But yeah, it is like a huge like confidence builder, because yeah, you'd see like these scary monsters and you're like, oh shit, they're gonna get me. But you can get them because you have the shotgun and you can shoot them and they spray blood everywhere and they die, and you can kill thousands of them, and then you feel like a badass. Yeah. And you feel like nothing can stop you, and that's part of like the excitement about Doom, is that you feel one of the really interesting things about Doom is that like you really, what's kind of fascinating is in Doom, the feeling of being strong really comes from being good at the game. Because like you said, you talked about you've seen people play Doom for the very first time and they run out of ammo and they die pretty early on. They probably don't feel very strong when they're doing that, but you get it from being good at the game and being able to play it longer and and then overcome new challenges and things like that. You just feel stronger and stronger and stronger. Yes. And that's just like a really fun experience, because it's not like you're playing an RPG where you actually level up and the game is telling you you're stronger, and then you can like kill enemies with higher damage. You're actually getting better at the game. Yeah. And it makes you feel, it's a big confidence builder. It makes you feel stronger. And
yes.
That's really gripping. Yeah, that's awesome. Well, I'm really glad you were on the show, and that we actually got to talk about your video. And I think a lot of people who got to listen to this, they understand your points much better, because you made it very clear, and it's very obvious that you do enjoy Doom a lot, and that particular review is difficult for you to do.
Again, I think that it is important to criticize the things we love. It doesn't mean we don't love them. In fact, I think it's a better love when you actually like understand the flaws in something, rather than pretending. I think like,
so too.
No piece of entertainment is perfect, and if you think it is, like if you're like, oh no, it's totally perfect, that just speaks to me in sort of a lack of confidence. Like, to be able to say that, this thing has some problems, and yet it still is amazing. It still, again, was this hugely transformative moment in my life. I think that is something that people in general, just internet-wide, video games, whatever your passion is something that is very critical and that we could all get better at, myself included. And I hope that I've maybe made it.
You have. You made a lot of sense.
I just hope that I've made somebody maybe question something or think in a different way, or I have shed new light on something that somebody loves and thought that they couldn't learn anything more about, because that to me is the most exciting part of any type of games writing. That's what I love when I read something. I actually read a really interesting article recently about why Doom's hit scanners, how hit scan enemies can be good even though modern games.
Yeah, I saw that too.
By Trashbang on Tumblr or on Twitter, but the article was on trashbang.tumblr.com. I don't know him at all, so it's not like a personal plug, but go read his article on Doom hit scanners, because it is fascinating. And
it was super enlightening.
My eyes, and that is what is exciting to me. So I hope I brought that to somebody. If nothing else, John, I want to say that I have really enjoyed talking to you, and I want to thank you so much for having me on the show tonight. Yeah,
no problem, man. I was really impressed. I was really impressed how much you know about Doom. That's very cool. I wasn't expecting it, and I was actually expecting to like roast you on this show at some point, but I can't, because you know your stuff, and you're smart, and you know what you're talking about, and it is important to talk about, like, being able, especially if you love something, to be able to criticize it and to look at it from alternate perspectives. You can't put things in some light where you can't touch it. You got to be able to talk about these types of things. And I hope people on Doomworld will see that so I don't get banned more often. Just kidding. All right. Thanks again for being here. And if you haven't already, check out Hey Port Player TV. That's on YouTube. Subscribe to his channel. You're doing a Doom playthrough too, right? Are you still in the middle of that?
As I've said, Coleman is doomed. I am trying to play through all 191 levels of Doom and Thy Flesh Consumed, Doom 2 and Final Doom, Doom 3 and its 2 BFG edition expansions, and Doom 2016. 191 levels, pistol and fists only. It is hilarious. It is so difficult, but it is hilarious.
All right, so follow him on YouTube, and what are you at Last Space Marine on Twitter? If you want to follow him.
Last Space Marine on Twitter.
Okay, and check out more of his reviews. All right, thank you very much, Coleman. It was a lot of fun talking to you, man.
Thank you, John.
Okay, all right, we'll see you later. We're signing off. Later, Space Marines.